Sup shooters, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to Nesby Reviews, where today I'll be reviewing a few tracks from an act named Winchester 7 and the Runners off of their album Heart of the Golden Mystics. And if we switch over to here, we're going to listen to these tracks in a moment. I just want to preface this review by saying that I've just come back from a big holiday. My throat's a bit rough. So if I sound a bit different than usual, that's why. People see this, I think probably around, it'll be around late January because there's a few weeks between reviews at the moment. But yeah, happy New Year to anyone who's watching this in advance. Hopefully you're having a great time, a great 2023 so far. Yeah, we're going to listen through each of these three tracks anyways from start till finish. The Saint Simon Killer returns, Her Double Life, and Married for the Money. And we're going to hear what we think. Let's go. What do we have? Oh, it's really perky with these, instantly with the kind of the record LP scratch kind of winding up and the guitar, drums and bass. I like the use of synths, nice bit of increased development there, very charming. I like this kind of 80s kind of electro kind of rockish, popish kind of groove we got going on here. It feels very nostalgic, which is weird because I wasn't alive at that point. But I dig it. I think it's really nice, fresh sounding, really colorful harmonies. Nice use of space for the vocal parts. Whisper once more your sweetest of lies. It's an interesting story so far. I want to hear more. I like the alternate snare sounds that they use there. The second one, dun, dun, it kind of has this reverb tail on it, which is really charming, and I like that little bit of an accent there in between those. There's a great chemistry between the various instruments and the composition. Really sort of sassy guitar lines on the side as well. We're not just relying on the strumming. We've got double tracked melodies with a little bit of vibrato there going alongside the really intriguing percussion there with the riff-tastic hi-hats there, the kicks and the snare groove with the 16th vibe. Working alongside those synth sequences and a really full-sounding bass in the low end. Kind of creepy with those overdubs though. I like the fact that with these guitar parts as well, we roll with the major chord and then we kind of go to the parallel minor chord there for a bit of unease and sense of sort of disturbance there on the progressions. So is that like legitimately a story of a killer there? It's going to be all right? Are they talking about trying to cope with what occurred there and sort of overcome the memories of the tragedy, the trauma?
Madly in love with each other as though
Really fantastic steel string guitar tone though in the center. I'm used to padding automation there with the sort of whistly, sort of squeegee synths. Really great sound design. This is a professional act. They've got a really sort of polished feel about them. They are great musicians who played their instruments very, very well so far. The vocalist with the double tracking there, a little bit of chorus on it, just a bit of freshness. It sort of has great presence amongst everything else. And even though there are a lot of different little ingredients within the mix, they're managing to find a sense of equilibrium there. We got track number 2, Her Double Life. See, Winchester 7 and the Runners. I mean, I haven't heard these guys before, but I'm actually really impressed with them. Oh, a little more sort of acoustic and clean sounding. Nice airiness to that crash cymbal there. Some reverse takes in there for a little bit of the trippiness we had in the initial track, kind of connect the two.
There she goes, the girl that nobody knows, dreaming her way again, in designer clothes, ribbons and bows, and that crooked grin. Heaven knows where her mind goes, or the love she keeps within. If she chose to hold me close, I'd stay there till the end.
I think the vocals are a little more subtle in this one. I'm enjoying listening to them. The dun 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 dun, that kind of perky arp there, or that perky sort of stabby kind of bass there is, it's a great groove, but it seems like it's trying to assert dominance in that range. Okay, is this like sort of supposed to fit thematically with what we had with the original track, or are they just different angles of love and connection and the different corruptions that can exist within? I think this is a charming little passage here with the psychedelic sort of delayed kind of modulated guitar parts, like that warbly underwater. Nice bit of space in between the storytelling parts. You know, at a 4-minute 25 track, this is a smart move. We got some chirpy little hi-hats in there as well. That I hear a lot of that in like rap and hip hop nowadays. So I'm really glad that I'm hearing it in a different form factor. And there's like the little things there, like again, I'm loving the relaxed nature of the way the vocals are delivered here. He's a great singer, and the personality is coming through. But it's also little things like the little tom fills, dun 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 dun, to go with da 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 da. I mean, I can't sing like the guy can, but just the way he phrases things in a similar eighth note groove is really smart. That snare drum from the first track comes in at the end of it. With chromaticism here at the end of it for a bit of uncertainty. If I were to suppose where her mind goes, I wouldn't know where to begin. Through my pain and woes, I stay I still feel as though that little dun 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 synth could just be like maybe 0.25 to 0.5 dB quieter in the mix, just to settle a bit more nicely. But it's still sidechained well. I still think it's a fantastic mix, and it could just be these headphones are a little bit resonant in the low mids, because it does change depending on the pitch of it. Could just be a resonant note going to root or something. Again, these strings that are flourishing and sort of sparkling around the place as well are a lot of fun. I think that's not something that we necessarily have at the first track, but I think with the cleanliness of some of the other string elements, it balances it out texturally. Trying to sort of figure out how it fits with the story, you know, the strings dancing around a bit. I think it's just an extra little bit of sparkle to kind of bring this chorus alongside the alternate sort of tom tails, fill tails. Great work with the additional vocal overdubs as well. I also like how we're not trying to get the vocal overdubs completely and perfectly in time. It's like we're aware if we have a slightly more organic, non-completely restrained and robotic way of doing it, that it sounds bigger because of that. Like you have one syllable coming like 1/100th of a second behind the other or something. It just adds a bit of dimensionality to it, you know? It can be counterproductive to have things sounding too perfect. These reverse takes are phenomenal. You know, when I say the curse of things sounding too perfect, it's not a pitch thing. Thank goodness it's not a pitch thing, because if you're like a quarter semitone out with your pitch on a note, you're screwed with harmonies. So this guy could definitely hit the notes the right way within these hook lines, and as well as the verses and stuff with a bit of variation there with the sequencing. But it's just the rhythm of it. If you change the rhythm in the approach or the attack of it or something like that, it just seems a bit more sort of like real, quote unquote. And that could be something that's preferential to people and listeners. Her double life, I think it's about someone maybe who is literally like a double agent or a spy, but I think it's also a connection to someone who is like, you're with someone and they have this ideal that they want, and then they have what's going on with you, and you're just trying to sort of like figure out if those two are compatible, or if she's going to walk away. Married for the money. Oh, really fizzy. A little bit of feedback there that I'm not a massive fan of. Okay, cool, so there was a distorted overtone guitar there. Really sassy, salty tone on that rhythm though. Very busy, but I don't necessarily mind this at that point. Blowing up your phone with all apologies. I was just kind of zoning out and enjoying the music, and that's the curse of being a music reviewer, because as much as I want to analyze and sort of like critique it, sometimes you listen to a track which has a steady, solid sort of groove to it. The bluesy kind of rockish harmonies, those guitar parts and stuff are so catchy and sort of easy to get sucked into that you find yourself being transported away to another world. That's the curse of being a music reviewer. Like these vocal harmonies are sublime here. They're nice and mixed your chest and head voice. A guitar solo, right? Working with those tom beats. Nice scratchiness to the snare tone. Great use of a room mic as well with percussion. Very raw sounding. I appreciate that was kind of music that makes it sound more authentic. I love the personality with it. Some things money can't buy, no matter how hard you try. So I assume this is potentially about like a gold digger or something like that.
You left me standing here to hang my head and cry.
Oh
Night for the money, honey. One day when it's gone, you'll sit there on that gilded throne, wondering what you've done. Wondering what you've done.
no! Nice use with what you've done. Oh, we're gonna go back to the lead guitar voicing. Okay. It would have been cool to maybe have had the continued what you've done kind of fade out or be repeated every like 4 beats or something like that, or every 2 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, every 4 bars or something like that. Just to have that that resolution there, that resignation be highlighted thematically, or like that story being told, or the reminder alongside the wistful guitar solo that we're finishing with. Still really great music. I'm really happy with it. I'm going to do something very important. I'm actually going to just heighten my mic a little bit. So this is the conclusion of my review of a few tracks off of the album Heart of the Golden Mystics by Winchester 7 and the Runners. They got this kind of bluesy, rockish kind of 70s, 80s kind of aesthetic to their music that I really appreciate. I think that this story is talking about love and loss in relation to maybe relationships I've had, or like, you know, like more sort of like colloquial or story sort of like elements like with the Saint Simon Killer, you know, like talking about how relationships got too intense and then maybe things like, because I think that the Saint Simon Killer Returns track was about people, you know, like I think that they were trying to sort of cope with the mystery of it, you know, trying to move on, everything's okay, but in reality they don't really know why or what had happened, and maybe there's some secrets we'll never find out about it. I'd like to listen to these tracks again, because I find that when I review them I sometimes miss key ingredients, like in the first verse when I'm sort of gushing over the guitar or the sort of the drum or the bass parts, you know, I can get distracted. But that's the beauty of music like this. It has replay value because there are these little intricacies that you can kind of find yourself falling in love with again and again. I think, you know, her double life again was about like the sort of spy sort of the double life thing, and where like you find yourself with what you want versus what you have, and you're trying to sort of cope with that cognitive dissonance, or that dissonance within a relationship itself. And Married for the Money, I think, is about someone who, like, you thought, you know, you'd marry someone to so that you'd have a safe, happy, sort of like easy life, but then, you know, things don't really go the way you think they will, and that's you on that gilded throne figuring out what the hell happened and how you're going to come to terms with the inevitable failure of thinking that relationships can be salvaged if you just have enough disposable income. I think that these are interesting stories that were told by Winchester 7 and the Runners. I think there's a lot of people who enjoy listening to them. A lot of people will be able to relate. So I think that the storytelling is definitely there. The vocals with that kind of sort of chilled, sort of calm, confident kind of demeanor with them. You know, we had a bit of vocal fry occasionally, and we were comfortable and had a chest voice to show great technique, but we were never trying to be too sort of hardcore about it, and I think that matched really well with the tone of the guitars, the bass, the drums, and everything else. Involved those synth sequences and stuff we had alongside the strings in the second track. There's a wide range of different textures and tones in the composition, and I think that the vocals, it's not always easy to get the singer to sound present in the mix, and to be fair, I think there were occasions where maybe, like with the bass sequence that we had like in the second track or something like that, it was just a little bit too resonant alongside the range of the vocals. But I think that could also, again, potentially be the headphones. It could be something that I need to sort of take a look at within my setup to sort of check whether these headphones are resonant in areas that they're not meant to be, which is why it's always important to listen through music that you like and lots of different speakers to hear the one that suits it best, because there is no one unique universal audio system to listen through music to. There's always going to be music that benefits from more or less bass, for example, you know, stuff like dubstep and drum bass and stuff is going to have a completely different experience on like a car system with lots of bass versus classical music where things will be distorted and a little bit too exorbitant, a little bit too abrasive potentially. But anyways, I think that the vocalist could really belt out those tunes. They had a great way of telling the story. The way they told those stories made sense with the style of the music, style of the story that was being told. I think that it was very authentic. Probably experiences that, or questions at least with the first track where that's concerned, stuff that they've had, and they would just want to share it with us, and I think it was great. They did a great job with that, and I think that given what we heard today, they'd probably be absolutely killer to hear live as well. I think that the songs themselves, the themes behind them, were great. You know, the use again of those sort of power chords with the fizzy distortion and clean strings there. The use of the synthesizers for a little bit sort of more perkiness and sort of a color and charm in some of those other tracks were great. I think that with the themes themselves and how they related to the stories and whether they were typical or atypical, it's more about what's sort of more fashionable or what's been done within the genres to sort of be like, okay, so like I know that when we hear these types of tales in this specific style of music, we typically have riffs like those, for example, that kind of rock and roll kind of that grind there, kind of rolling along. They're married for the money, you know, like dealing with the intricacies and the raw truth of living an unfulfilled life and a lie. Basically, it's fascinating. It's not really one to commit to intensely or seriously to match it. Like, we're not trying to make the music too symbolic of what's going on with the story and the vocals. I think that we paid careful attention to the different harmonies and key signatures and scales that we had involved with. There was a great use of parallel minors or majors occasionally that I think I pointed out in like the first or second track there, which was smart because you can have songs that, especially if you're repeating the chorus 2 to 3 times, if you just had the same chord progression for those 2 to 3 times, and that's 2 to 3 like blocks of it, like blocks of 8 bars or something, just to tell the whole stanza of the chorus, it's just too much. Even if you have additional development, more guitar lead lines, more vocal lines, etc., you can't just shove more and more in there. You've got to find a way to keep the core concept sounding fresh for the entirety of the time, and I think that we managed to absolutely deliver on each of these tracks there. Even I think with Her Double Life, where we had like 3 choruses at the end or something like that, I didn't find myself becoming disinterested or disengaged there. Yeah, it's great. It's great. The performances are on point. I don't think there was a single note out of place. I liked the alternate sort of lead voicings there when the vocals took a break there with some of the guitar lines. I think that there was a great sort of charisma to it and a great use of sort of vibratos and stuff like that and other sort of bluesy kind of bend techniques and such, but at the same time, I think that even when the vocals were going, we had the double track guitars with some arpeggiated or broken chord stuff there that showed a little bit of technical proficiency. And what I mean by little is that it definitely didn't overplay. You know, they probably could have played a lot more technically than they did, but it wouldn't have been to the betterment of the music. It would have been a detriment because they would have been overplaying it. I think in the same way that with the percussion was great because we just had a fluidity there with those tom fills, but then we had those 8th notes occasionally where we knew that we could go faster, but it wouldn't have suited the groove of the music, and it was more about keeping people involved and sort of making it easier to follow along because a lot of it, especially with the style of vocals we have, is very smooth. You know, it wasn't caustic or abrasive. It was wonderfully enjoyable to listen to. It was charming, and I think that if you have too much contrast with the way the instruments are being played, like too horrific a distortion on a guitar, or like a thuddy kind of bass riff, or like double kicks or something, there's just things you can't really fit together without there being a bit of drama. And even though the stories had drama within, of course, you know, even with a bit of playfulness there and like Married for the Money, you know, it's fine. Like I think that everything had a great sense of chemistry within here. I don't think there are any issues with the performances, and I think that the main sort of concepts here, especially with the use of parallel majors and minors and variations in the different drum grooves and stuff like that, and the bass line providing such wonderful sort of like assistance in the root notes and low end, it's fantastic. The recording, mixing and mastering was fantastic. I think that they absolutely smashed that for the most part. Again, I know I mentioned the bass sequencer and I think Her Double Life or something like that being a little bit too resonant for my tastes in certain positions, but I think aside from that, everything else was fine. It's just that they were very similar to the vocal range at that point with one of those sort of frequency bands, and I just think like, yeah, but that's just a little thing. Honestly, like for the tracks to be this strong, for me to only find one thing, because you know, I'm not here to say nice things, I'm here to be objective and honest and try to analyze stuff the best I can. I think that it's a great start. This is again my first impression. As far as I'm aware, Winchester 7 and the Runners, they are sounding somewhat familiar to me for some reason, so I may have listened to previous works by them, but I'm very happy to start the year off with these guys, 2023. It's a great start to the year. Who knows what we're going to have next? I never know what we're going to have next. It's always fun. It's always a fun journey. But yeah, I think that in general, we had a wonderful situation with the way that the instruments were leveled and EQ'd and recorded. There was a nice sort of clean sort of room sound to it, a little bit of grittiness, a little bit of distortion and tension there occasionally, a little bit of fry there and a bit of crispiness, but outside of that, man, like it's fantastic. We clearly have people that know how to play, and we have engineers involved who know how to record. In addition to that, I liked how there was sort of automation of the panning of some of the various elements. Like there was like sort of a swishy kind of synth that went whoosh whoosh like this, and things popped in and out of the headphones. It was nice and wide in the stereo field. Like again, some of the sequences would go wider there. There was double tracking the guitar, so it sounded nice and full. Aside from the bass sequencer I mentioned in the start of the sort of like production section, everything else was nicely sort of like EQ'd and niched in the frequency spectrum. There weren't any other weird resonances or anything like that. The vocals were wonderfully recorded. They sounded nice and crisp. Again, the guy could sing, so they didn't need to over exaggerate the effects on the vocals or anything like that. There might have been a little bit sort of like ping pong delay or something like that. A little bit of chorus on the vocals, maybe just to help them sort of be a little more sort of like flashy sounding and to give a bit more sort of brightness in there. But aside from that, it definitely sounded like the guy didn't need any help with any sort of like tuning or anything like that, which is just wonderful. And the compression on the track overall was great. There wasn't a whole heap of side chaining on like the kicks there. It didn't sound too sort of artificial. The limiting compression across the master bus was fantastic. It was nice and loud without pumping, with a decent amount of dynamic range in there as well. It didn't pump. It was fantastic to listen to. And that is effectively my review of Heart of the Golden Mystics by Winchester 7 and the Runners. If you enjoyed this review, please do go check out Winchester 7 and the Runners' various social medias and their Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe. Please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they have more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.